in the spotlight. It is a new era at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh heads to the Chargers. Sherrone Moore then takes over. Moore was OC last year, went 4-0 as interim head coach as Harbaugh served separate suspensions at different points in the year. Things will look a bit different on field after last year's Natty. The Wolverines had an FBS high 13 players drafted, returning just 36% of production, according to ESPN's Bill Connolly. That's 128th in the nation. And probably the biggest piece they'll replace is QB J.J. McCarthy, 10th overall pick by the Vikings. Former four-star recruit Alex Orji seems next in line, but their 6 rostered QBs have just 219 career combined FBS pass attempts. Here's Coach Moore today.
Tough, smart, dependable, relentless, enthusiastic, and together is how I describe our team. We're going to do everything we can to strive for perfection. Everything we do every day is a process, and we'll continue to strive to do that. And we'll continue to do that with contagious enthusiasm unknown to mankind. Our players have done an outstanding job of keeping the culture, keeping the togetherness, the brotherhood, and really it's a testament to them. For our team, it'll take shape in training camp, and then it'll take shape in game 1 and game 2 to see where we're at. I feel very confident about our team, very excited about our team. Every team is different, and we're always hunting. Regardless of people are coming after us, we're coming after them. So for us, we're not in the mentality of sitting back and waiting to see what goes on. We're going to attack our process. We're going to work our tails off to make sure we're doing the best things we can possible, the way we know to be successful.
New coach, new QB, no shortage of confidence in Ann Arbor, though it might feel like the Wolverines are starting from scratch. According, again, to Bill Connolly, Michigan returns just 24% of its offensive production from a year ago. Only Ohio returns less. And as mentioned a moment ago, overall returning production also ranks bottom 10. So, guys, there is talent. I mean, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Donovan Edwards, that balancing with new head coach, new DC, new QB. Pete, what is the level of concern that these Wolverines can make a smooth transition off of last year's national title?
Phil, I think there's legitimate questions about Michigan coming off the historic season they had last year, and I'll start up front on the offensive line. They had 3 offensive linemen drafted. They lose all 5 of their starters. It's going to be very difficult for a team that had an indelible identity the last 3 years. They were a full frontal assault on offense. They ground out games, and they balanced that with an efficient passing game. Can they reestablish that identity quick with Texas and USC coming to town in September?
And it's not just the beginning. It's not just Texas and USC in September. Even if you do establish that identity, you have October, quote unquote, off. You don't have that tough of opponents. But the beginning of November, you start that with Oregon, then you end it with Ohio State. Let's say you struggle early, September 7th against Texas. Let's say you're struggling against USC. Even when you find your identity, you get tested again at the end of the season. It's like you're actually in college. You have exams early and exams late. And so that's going to be the test for me in Michigan. You're replacing so much on offense. You're replacing a new entire staff on defense. And all of a sudden you have questions at quarterback. To me, those questions got to get answered early and late.
Sam, I don't think there's any question about that. But the good news is there's some absolute star power that is still here. I mean, you're looking at potentially 3 first-round draft picks on that Michigan defense. It starts at cornerback and then on the interior of the defensive line. So how can you use that? How can you utilize that star power, continue to build around? And now it's just next man up. I mean, quite frankly, this Michigan team has recruited, has compiled this amount of talent around them. It's not just a one-hit wonder. So I believe in Coach Moore. I think that this unit is still going to be a force to reckon with. Are they going to be perfect? Are they going to be national champs? We'll see.
Well, and a big answer to that question is going to come how they perform at quarterback. Alex Orji's the presumed starter under center. He had 15 carries last season and 0 pass attempts. And then you balance it with a 25-year-old Jack Tuttle, who certainly has the edge in experience. Pete, where does Michigan stand at the most important position in the sport?
I think Jack Tuttle was in Sam's recruiting class, Phil. Michigan stands in a place where we presume Alex Orji is going to be the starter, but Sherrone Moore may be a rookie head coach. He had some veteran poise today up on the podium. He didn't give a whole lot away here at Big Ten Media Day on who the starter was going to be. So I think we have to start with Alex Orji. You mentioned the 15 carries, Phil. He took 17 snaps. What I will say about Alex Orji is he took real snaps in the Rose Bowl. He took real snaps against Ohio State last year. He took snaps in the national title game. They used him in high leverage situations, and that's going to translate come September.
But the difference between the usage of Alex Orji and the usage of J.J. McCarthy is that J.J. McCarthy early in his career had some passing attempts as well. Alex Orji in the last 2 years has attempted one pass, not completed, but attempted one pass. When you look at J.J. McCarthy as a freshman, he got play. As a sophomore, he was in there a little bit more, and all of a sudden he started playing better. And so for me, there's so many questions at quarterback for a guy who has experience running the ball, but he didn't have experience even attempting a pass. One pass in 2 years, big problem for Michigan.
And he's a first-round draft pick, right? When you're replacing that type of quality of quarterback, that type of winner, that type of leader, a guy that has truly done it all for Michigan, that's some big shoes to fill. And we've seen that across the country with various teams when they have that. When a quarterback who was considered a generational talent moves on, or a first-round draft pick moves on, there's some struggle, and there's going to be some growing pains. But it goes back to my first point around the talent around him. Hand the ball off left, hand the ball off right. Let's get Edwards involved early and often.
Well, and going back to a point Pete made a moment ago, Tuttle wasn't in Sam's recruiting class, but he was in the recruiting class of Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, and Zach Wilson.
Have you been in Dylan Gabriel's minivan?
I have not made it into the van. Second time I've gotten this question, actually. I've seen the van. I haven't made it in the van yet. Special invite only, I think.
Yeah, well, you're not one of his receivers, certainly. You're not fast enough to run with that Duck crew. The reasoning he bought it was so he could be able to bring those guys around and drive them to go throw. It has to say something about him and who he is and the impact he's made in a short time in Eugene.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's impressed me the most about Dylan and his leadership style is his ability to connect. I think he realizes how important that is. Certainly it's one of the DNA traits of our program, but he does a great job of getting integrated with our guys and spending some time with them.
A lot of expectations coming into this season with a lot of change. What do you think the ceiling is for this team this year, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know the ceiling yet because I haven't seen us perform yet. I'll say this: we have higher expectations for ourselves than anybody else, and if they're talking about you, that can be a good thing, but it isn't if you don't perform. So we got to go out there and perform, see what kind of team we have, and then play to the best of our ability.
For your university, there was a duck in the river here. Oregon has always made it a point to make a splash. What kind of opportunity lies for the school and the program in this new league?
Yeah, I would just tell you, when you think about Oregon, you think about mighty different. We're different in our process. We've always been innovative, whether it's going back to jerseys or facilities or having a big old duck in the pond out here. So I'm hoping we can carry that thing around to away games this year. That might be a fun distraction for opponents.
Remember, Oregon 12-2 last season, and they went undefeated against everybody not named Washington. Sam, Lanning addressed expectations in that conversation, but for you, what is realistic in Eugene in year one of Big Ten play?
Well, it's realistic for Oregon to not only compete for a Big Ten championship, but potentially win it or win or loss, go to the college football playoffs and possibly a championship game. This is one of the most talented rosters in all of college football, and it starts with quarterback, but it goes to coaching. Dan Lanning and Will Stein, offensive coordinator. We saw what they did last year with Bo Nix at quarterback. They have another veteran quarterback with experience, talent wide receiver, talent on the offensive and defensive lines. Oregon is a problem.
I think where Oregon is really going to be a problem in the Big Ten is they have the lines ready on both sides of the ball. Their tackles on offense are arguably the best pair of tackles in all of college football. And I think their identity on this season comes quick in the run game. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel returns boatloads of yards, but I love Jordan James. If you talk to the Oregon coaching staff, they'll tell you that the duck-tail back who averaged more than 7 yards per carry this year is poised to be a breakout player who could really end up as one of the most productive players in the entire country this season.
And talking about returning on-field talent, whether it's inbound or from the roster last year, there's also stability on the coaching staff. Both coordinators return. OC Will Stein gets to integrate now OU transfer Dylan Gabriel into this offense. Eric, you played O-line. How do you grade Gabriel's fit into this offense?
Hey, here's the deal. Gabriel would fit anywhere that he went, okay? He's that good of a player. And when you look at what he did last year, I mean, his most productive year in college by far, over 3,000 yards passing, the most touchdowns on the ground and through the air he's ever scored, and his highest QBR rating there. So to me, man, it's a match made in heaven. You have a power team at the foundation there, the foundation that they have fundamentally. And now you add this guy that can absolutely light it up through the air, can pass as all get out, extremely accurate, was as accurate as he's ever been last year as well. We fully expect him to take Oregon to the promised land. That's what they want. That's why they brought him in, and the things he's going to be able to do will be very fast.
And one of the benefits last year in Oregon's offense was the completion percentage. Everyone talked about Bo Nix and his completion percentage. People argued, well, he throws it, not far down the field. Well, Dylan Gabriel is very accurate down the field as well. And so you have him at quarterback. Tez Johnson at receiver went over 1,000 yards last year, 10 touchdowns. Now all of a sudden you have there's continuation, number one, right now this year. And then not to mention Dante Moore, the 5-star recruit, number 1 quarterback in his class, transfer from UCLA, just turned 19 years old in May. And so even if he doesn't play this year, you have some continuation of success for the next several years to come.
Sam, I think that was a great point that you just put out there about the deep ball accuracy, and it kind of goes back to, again, foundationally wanting to run the football. Oregon's going to slam that ball wherever they want. That's going to cause those safeties to come down, and that's exactly where Dylan Gabriel's accuracy will light people up.